Every single time we come online with you on Business Today, we always bring someone, we always invite someone who is an individual who is successful in business or who shares or has knowledge, a great extent of knowledge when it comes to business. So today, let's go take a look and see who this business personality is who's joining with us on today's program. Milinda Rajapaksha is the Additional Director General of the Government Information Department, attended 3 UN General Assemblies and founded the South Asia Regional Youth Network for the International Planned Parenthood Federation, co-chaired the World Conference on Youth. Milinda was appointed a Regional Youth Coordinator for the International Planned Parenthood Federation's South Asia Regional Office, overlooking 9 countries in the region. He also founded the Youth Lead, the Asia Pacific network of young key affected populations in Asia and the Pacific, based in Bangkok. He has engaged in a number of UN negotiations and political advocacy in New York as a civil society representative and later as a government delegate. In 2010, he received the IPP International Award for contributions to sexual and reproductive health and rights. Milinda served as the working director of the National Youth Services Council within the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Skills Development. He also led the global process towards the World Conference on Youth 2014 as the co-chair of the International Youth Task Force along with the European Youth Forum. Yes, as you're mostly now aware, the personality is Mr. Milinda Rajapaksha joining us today. He's not a brand new face to ChannelEye. He has been on programs with us and he's very familiar and he's with us today. Good evening to you. Great to have you on board.
Good evening.
Great. All right, so Mr. Milinda, let's speak with about now since this program is basically focused on the forecast of 2020 when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. Let's also, before we jump into that, let's talk about what happened, because we understand it's not a secret anymore that we are sort of, as a country, we have to push harder than ever before, if you put it like that. What would have been the reason why it had to go there?
Well, it's not only us, it is not only Sri Lanka, it is the entire world is going through a very difficult time after decades.
Right.
I'm sure we are very well aware. The world is facing multiple crises at the moment, especially for the last decade. The known biggest issue is the climate change.
Right.
More than ever, we are hearing about wildfires, erosions. There are a number of crises from all around the world. Then top of that, we are facing another issue of this, rich people are getting richer.
Yes.
And the poorest are getting poorer. That is also, now today some people are richer than the countries. Some people who are rich today they are the richest ever on the planet. And
isn't that good to have rich people in the country? No?
Of course good to have. Of course good to have. I'm very pro on that. But I'm telling you a different story here.
Right, okay.
And they go to the space and come back, know. But some people are really suffering.
Right.
Same time the gap is widening. That is what I'm telling.
Exactly.
Gap is widening. And top of that, we all are facing a new crisis, which is the pandemic. Now this pandemic brought us into a very crucial situation. I am not saying all these problems happen because of that. The problems are there. That is why I said the environment issue, the achieving the sustainable development goal, the poverty, all these issues were there. But top of that, this issue came. Now if you look at the local context, we are facing multiple issues. Number one, we are dealing with the pandemic, which we have never dealt with. Number one. Exactly. And you have to remember, this is not only a pandemic from the health point of view, but this is a social crisis too. This is a cultural crisis too.
Right.
This is an economic crisis too. This pandemic is in the center and all the other crises are around that now.
Around that, yeah.
Then we have been facing this tough economic situation for a long time, Varuna. That is not because the Rajapaksha government or the Premadasa government. It is because after the independence, we didn't make, most of the time, we haven't made right decisions at the right time. And I must say, we have also made good decisions. We can't undermine the good decision different governments have made.
Absolutely.
But remember, we went through a 30 years long war. That's a bloody civil war which cost trillion of dollars and the human lives and the infrastructure cost.
Yep.
Then Varuna, we have been facing a different crisis with the young people of this country. We had almost 3 youth uprisings. One 1971, 1983 Tamil young people uprising which became a war. Then 1987 to 89 which ended up with at least 60,000 young people getting killed. That's a government sponsored terror,
Right.
so which we faced, and that actually lost, because of that crisis, we lost some of the best brains of this country. We all know that.
Yeah.
So then all these things pushed us towards different economical crises. Since we are talking about economics, I will focus more on how we got into this economic crisis.
Yes.
Then Varuna, the balance sheet crisis came. With all that, we had to go to IMF 8-9 times. So there were reforms, there were decisions made on that. And from 1970s, actually 60s, you know, Varuna, we have been a very I would not say socialist, but a very welfare-driven country. You and I studied free of charge.
Yes.
Our health
Healthcare
system is free of charge. Our fuel is subsidized. Our electricity is heavily subsidized. Our transport system is massively subsidized. So that entire cost is managed by the public end of the day, the government, then the public has to pay for that. So that money would have gone to other development projects or our development aspects. So then after the war, we went through a massive development phase. We did long-term projects, short-term projects, middle-term projects. But unfortunately, during the last 5-year good governance times, 99% of those projects were stopped. Most of the projects were not carried forward. Most of the projects were closed down, unfortunately. And also something very bad happened, that we took loans which was not unbearable. The amount of loan Rajapaksha government took for 10 years, they took within 4 years. Even without doing any development project. And today I was in this with the central bank governor this morning. He revealed only during the last regime, that this is a very good number to remember.
Okay.
So when central bank governor was leaving the central bank in 2015, our economy was 79 billion US dollars and our foreign reserve was 5 billion.
Right.
We had 5 billion borrowings in the country. So for 79 billion. And by 2020, Mangala Samaravira minister and especially the Governor Kumaraswamy, they took it up to 15 billion and the economy grew up only from 5 billion. That means for the 84 billion GDP, we had 15 billion sovereign bonds issued. So that's where the mismatch happened. So these all conscious decisions politicians and the governments have made today. But President Gotabaya Rajapaksha, when he came to the power, we made a very clear promise or the plan to the people. That plan was, we are going to get this country out of this. We are going to give tax facilities, which we gave from the very first budget, and we are going to give a lot of other infrastructure development, which is essential for the development of the country. So we are keeping the promise. That's what I want to say. But for your question is very specifically. Is this a tough time? Well, that's from president to myself. That entire spectrum of government officials and politicians, we all acknowledge the fact that it is a tough time. Not for us, for everyone. It is a very difficult times in terms of all the economics parameters. We all agree with that. And
it's tough in the sense economically tough.
Economically it's tough. You know, by last phase of the war, Central Bank Governor Nimad Cabral was telling our foreign reserves went down to $800 million. Today it's 3.1 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
It went down to 800 million. No one knew because there was no social media availability.
Yeah.
But we came out of that.
Exactly.
This equation was there. We came out of that. So we are going through again a tough time. The entire world is going through a tough time, but we have shown all the signals that we can come out of this.
Exactly. I mean, regardless of whether we have contingency plans or contingency plans on the contingency plans, we have to have sort of a backbone. The economy has to be stable, but when something happens to that, obviously some of these contingency plans cannot be even executed at the very end. So that's what it is. That was a good picture and also great snapshot of what happened. So let's see what's going to happen in the future. Right. So the current situation in Sri Lanka's economy, when it comes to business landscape, how is it like with the situation in mind and also what's in the future as well?
Varun, that's a very good question. Now I am representing the policy makers of this country and the government officials, the political platform of the country. Our role is to make the policy framework. That is what was approved by the people of this country, vistas of prosperity. And then as officials, now we are committed to implement that, achieve those targets. There are changes which we had to do along the way because things have changed a lot now.
Yes.
Most of the income is going for the healthcare services now and providing social welfare, protectionism for people and the children of this country. But if you look at how the market is performing today, share market, why the share market is breaking the record after record, because of the trust the collective of investors have kept on that.
Yeah.
Otherwise they will never invest this much of money on such a platform. Number one. Number two, you can see all the PLCs and the other private companies, all the other entrepreneurs. You might have had a lot of people here in this show.
Yes.
None of them are trying to run away. Has anyone come and told, sat in this show and say that, okay, we are going to close down and run? No one. No one. Only few idiots are trying to run away and tell that the entire country is going to run away. No, the brave people who are very patriotic, people who have built their business on this country are trying to put things together. If we, Varuna, I can bet you, if we look at the number of people who lost jobs during the pandemic, probably we are among the least of the world. We protected everyone's jobs.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, even at this institute, no, everyone is still working. We didn't kick out anyone. That's the same situation. I must be very thankful, and the finance minister, Honorable Basil Rajapaksha, in his budget speech, specifically thanked the private sector for doing that, keeping everyone on the job, keeping everyone on the payroll. Not only that, keep investing. There are $1 million investments came for different sectors. When we brought import restrictions to the country, you know, the tile industry to many industries, those companies started business here. Some invested $50-60 million investments. Recently, Marubeni was here, one of the biggest trading houses in Japan, ready to invest almost $500 million. Then Adani was here. That's right. Investing more than $700 million in Sri Lanka. Then for Yugadanavi, New Fortress invested $250 million. Altogether, their investment is going to be $400 million. Look at John Keel's. Look at any other real estate development company. Look at Tokyo Cement. Look at INSEE. Look at, I can name thousands of companies, hundreds of companies who are keep investing and trying to keep things together. And I was talking to Hemas. I mean, they are investing a lot of money on producing world-class medicine in Sri Lanka. So this is, yes, there is a problem.
Yeah.
That is the nature of this game. And still, there is a forex issue.
Yes.
We all know. Very difficult to import things, but still essentials are coming. And compared to last year, November, this year export has grown up almost from 20%. So things are changing, things are happening. Yes, things are difficult. There are issues. Banks have issues. The forex issue is there, but still I must be very thankful and very much appreciative of the private sector of this country, especially the apparel sector. You know how they are holding it with more than 300,000-400,000 young girls of this country, keeping everyone together and contributing to the largest portion of export even today. So we must be thankful to them. We should not discourage them. We should give the positive message to them that the government is with them, the political hierarchy is with them, officials are there to give whatever the possible support to them.
Right. This is exactly what we need to hear as a country, because I think this is the type of news that needs to go out, because people haven't heard of these things. I mean, all these generators are running in the background, not knowing, and we are wondering why we are still in the dark, because the fuel is still being fueled, I would say. And these being done in the background is good news for you. So that means in 2022, there will be great success coming towards you if you are entrepreneurs at the same time. So let's also speak about the small and medium businesses as well. What about them? Like, does the government have any plans for them in terms of banks or financial support?
If you look at our policy framework as a government, not only for economy, you would have understood, Varuna, our center of our development approach is villages.
Okay.
You know, that's how our party has been formed. That's how we look at the development of the country. When I say village, your question directly my answer to your question directly link with that. That is where the micro level business are happening.
Yes.
That is where the small, medium level entrepreneurs are coming out, right? If you look at the banks of this country, this is not a secret. No, we all know banks give loans or facilities to people who have money. If Varuna, you go and tell the bank that you don't have money, they will not give you a penny. If you say that you have 10 million, then they will say, okay, then we will give you 20 million. That is how the banks work. But especially the government banks and the regional development banks, Samurdhi Bank, those instruments have been now activated very properly. We have very good two chairmen of the both big government banks who know the ground level reality, who have done politics with us, who knows the president's vision and the party's vision very clearly. So this, if you look at the budget proposal 2022, budget proposal has very clearly laid out few things. Number one, we actually giving the Sri Lanka's ever biggest package for micro and small medium level entrepreneurs. Most of their loans will not be collected again from banks. Government is taking care of that.
Right.
And there is a completely new scheme coming up for 2%, 3%, 4%, different small range of interest rate for them. Number two. Number three, Samurdhi and few other government entities are helping micro level entrepreneurs in village level to come out. Some of those are grants. Even the Ministry of Youth is investing almost 2 billion rupees as small grants for the micro level youth entrepreneurs in the village level. So the quick answer for your question is, if you look at the vistas of prosperity, village, micro, small, medium level entrepreneurs, and that population is center of our development approach. You will see in 2022 the entire government development approach, at least 70% of the money will go to the village directly, will go to those people you are asking about. Center will control only a very, very limited resource.
Right. Okay. So as a sub question to that, this is a concern that's coming from the society. Now, you know the situation with the vegetables, there are also farmers and also there are entrepreneurs in a very small scale. Now, the fact that they believe that they are not given enough supplements, or rather I would say fertilizer, or proper fertilizer, that's what they say. How does that reflect on the vistas vision when it comes to that?
President Gotabaya Rajapaksha very clearly promised to people of this country, I am going to make a toxic free nation for our children. He promised, he delivered. And he is a man who will deliver it in a very strict, adamant and a progressive way. That is how he delivered it. And it looks like people of this country are not ready for that.
Ready for that.
Even Lord Buddha said, everyone is not ready to understand the religion.
Yes.
Or the Buddhist philosophy. That could have happened, no? Even at that time, if that happened, that is possible now.
Yes.
So, President delivered, but it looks like some are not ready for that. Okay. JVP is not ready for that. Samagi Jana Balawega is not ready for that. And this is a country, two political party walk from home to home and convince them to push the government to get more chemical.
Toxic.
More toxic. So this is that kind of country. This is a hilarious country. I mean, when my kids grow up in 20, 30 years, they will ask from us how this joke happened in this country. But it happened. Now, the chemicals will be available. Fertilizer. But the carbonic fertilizer, which is good for the earth and the people, will be the subsidiary.
Right.
Right? But if you still want, you can take that. But I must say, this is, you go to any village. My father is a farmer, my grandfather is a farmer, myself is a farmer, my brother is a farmer. We all have our own paddy lands done by someone. Even today my mother is involved. We all have done our own agriculture. That this entire media campaign of that around 10% of the farmers are facing problem is not the reality of the country. I can assure you two things today. As a senior government official of this country, there will be no food shortage of this country. Number one. Number two, there will be no agricultural issue of this country. And we will ensure income and the protection for all the farmers of this country. And more than that, we will ensure the rights of all the people of this country to have a proper meal, have a healthy meal, and have a non-toxic meal for them and their kids before end of this 5 years.
Brilliant. That's great. So moving on from here to the international levels, we speak about the port city and also as that. So in very short, as the last question, could we also explain about what the government's stance is when it comes to implementing and also attracting investments to the port city?
Varuna, this is the biggest modern project government of Sri Lanka has initiated. But unfortunately, for some reason, previous government stopped it for 5 years, which cost us $1 billion. But now we have reinitiated the entire project, which is, the amount of parties happened there during the last few days at the port city.
At the port, yes.
At the port city. But that is not the reason why we started the port city. At the moment, they have almost finalized the international schools, universities, world-class hospitals to come there, and the real estates have already started some of their work. And I heard that the government of Sri Lanka is waiting to get a much bigger news from the government of China, because you remember Premier of China and our President at that time, Honorable His Excellency Milinda Rajapaksha, initiated the project. So it would be nice to have the Premier back from China with the President Gotabaya Rajapaksha to initiate the construction.
Right.
It's a difficult time for both China and Sri Lanka with the travelling and the COVID situation, but I heard both parties are trying their best to initiate the rest of the development work. But I can guarantee you, before 2025, we will have a beautiful place where world-class investors walk in, where world-class professionals walk in, where world-class transactions happen, and that will be the gateway to South Asia.
All right. Okay, that's great news, because now that is something that will definitely will also spread all the way to the villages and every other corner that people like you and I are also dwelling in the country. Thank you so much, Milinda, for coming in today. It was a great discussion. It was very insightful to be able to expose what's going on in the country when it comes to 2022 and what's in store for you, for the individuals, the citizens, and also the entrepreneurs who have joined, who are wishing to be successful in the future. Thank you very much. We had Mr. Milinda Rajapaksha, the Additional Director General of the Government Information Department, joining us today. Thank you very much once again for joining in. And for the viewers, we'll be coming back with another insightful episode next week. Have a good night.